Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to World of Tanks with Unit 237, and today I am doing a tank review on one of the French tier 10 light tanks. It is the EBR 105. Overall, a pretty controversial vehicle, especially when it's introduced. Nowadays it still is. It's not got the best gun, it's not got the best armour, although its survivability is quite high. That's due to the wheels and its insane mobility. Being a wheeled vehicle, it's really quick. That's probably its main strength. The survivability is high due to its speed, not so much its camo rating, but the wheels on it are incredibly powerful. They, for some reason, seem to absorb a lot of shots. The amount of times you'll play strongholds or advances or clan wars or just even random games, the amount of times I've heard people say they've wheeled an EBR, not so much the Lynx or the AMD and the EBR Hotchkiss, the tier 8, 6 and 7 ones, they're pretty mediocre. The tier 7's not too bad. I never played the tier 9. But from my experience, the tier 10, it's very good, and arguably one of the best light tanks in the game, probably the best light tank in the game in my opinion. It's certainly rendered a lot of other light tanks completely irrelevant just because of what it's able to achieve, and it's sort of broken the game's meta. For those of you who've been playing World of Tanks a while, you'll know the uproar that was kicked up during the Defender period, the Chrysler period, tanks like that, the T125 as well. You know how powerful those tanks are. The EBR has taken a game that nowadays in 2020 is all about mobility and has redefined it. But we're going to have a look why it's done that. So let's compare them to the rest of the tier 10 light tanks. This is all of them. You've got the 13105. Which is the other French tier 10 light tank, the original one. You've got the Manticore, the T100 LT for Britain and Russia. For Germany, you've got the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. For China, the WZ1321. And for America, you've got the XM551 Sheridan. In terms of firepower, the EBR has the lowest, not even 2000 DPM, which is pretty abysmal by tier 8 medium tank standards. The Sheridan, as you can see, that actually has the best, but that's with the 152mm derp gun. If we add the 105mm, there we go, you can see that the Sheridan actually still retains the highest DPM at 2600. So the Sheridan is more like a pseudo medium tank, really. The EBR doesn't have the DPM or the penetration. See, it's got a standard 390 alpha damage, sorry, for 105mm. Let's see, slow rate of fire. Actually has worse DPM than the MX-13-105, which is odd because the MX-13-105 has a 3-shot auto loader. But it's got very, very good shell velocity. It fires APCR as standard, as does most of the tier 10 light tanks, from what I know. Its average damage is 3rd best, but what's important about this tank and what sets it apart from most of the other tanks, aside from the Manticore and the Sheridan when it uses its 152mm or 150mm, I can't remember what caliber it is if we update it quickly, which I clicked the wrong button, there we go, it actually gets some fantastic high explosive rounds. 105mm penetration, and that takes its average damage up to 2500, which is second best, and it's high explosive damage, so it rips modules apart. You know, you get behind chieftains, you get behind anything really, aside from the mouse, proper pseudo heavies, or pseudo heavies, probably like super heavies, that's it. Most of the time HE will be the ammunition of choice. You know, it's very rare that people take a big stock of APCR in this tank. Maybe 5 to 10 rounds to deal with fast tanks. Certainly in Clan Wars, EBRs are devastating to the back of chieftains. T1 T3s, anything with light armour anywhere, this thing will tear to pieces. But yeah, its high explosive rounds are fantastic. You'll be seeing a lot of the use of high explosive rounds in the games we'll be showcasing today and in another video we do on the EBR. If you look at the gun handling, best in class aim time, second best dispersion of 0.36, that's the trait with these wheeled vehicles. Their gun handling is insane, especially with aiming time, but their accuracy leaves a little bit to be desired. But then again, it is a light tank, its dispersion is fantastic. Wargaming's theory here was it's going to be on the move a lot, so we're going to give it fantastic dispersion. I believe the dispersion values were nerfed when the wheeled vehicles were nerfed, along with the durable suspension system, i.e. the suspension that basically can withstand any shell, any bump really, and not wheel yourself. It's incredible. Anyway, it's depression 7 degrees. It's okay. I believe that only works over the side of the vehicle. Some of the other tanks lower down have better gun depression, but it's not terrible. Forward speed is 70 kilometers per hour, which if you look at the T100 environmental Panzerwagen is actually slower than them. But its reverse speed is 50, which is double anything else. But what we have to remember here is that 70 kilometers an hour is in mobility mode. To describe what I'd say is mobility mode, it's when all 4 wheels are touching the ground. All 4 wheels touching the ground means it's able to turn faster. Don't know whether it accelerates faster. I'd have to test that out at some point. But you'll see you can switch modes between having 2 or 4 wheels touching the ground. When it has 2 wheels touching the ground, this thing will top out at 95 kilometers an hour forwards and about 50 or 60 backwards. I'm not quite sure what its reverse speed is, but it's insane. And what you'll be seeing a lot of in the replays is switching between the modes doesn't take time. It's not like the CS63 in its turbo mode where you've got to wait 2 seconds for it to switch between modes. It's not like the UDES and the Stritzwagen class of tank destroyers where you've got to wait a couple of seconds for it to turn into siege mode. This thing, you can put all 4 wheels down and retract them instantly. And that makes for some interesting maneuvers where this thing can be going at 90 kilometers an hour and then you can turn back around to do 180 on a knife point. It's insane. It's like what you'd be expecting modern day fighter jets to be doing, the maneuvers that this thing can pull. And it weighs 17 tons as well. That's very heavy for a light tank. Especially compared to the WZ-1321, but I'd class that as more of a medium tank over a light tank. But this thing, its speed, its weight for a light tank means it's a very good rammer, and a lot of people as their second or third skill will take controlled impact, which reduces the ramming damage done to you but increases the ramming damage done to enemy. And since I added that on, oh my god, it's hilarious. You know, you'll clap into the side of another tank and you'll do so much ramming damage to them. It's actually ridiculous. Power to weight, pretty good, not the best. It's got fantastic engine power, but obviously not the best, but its mobility makes up for it. Terrain resistances are pretty poor, I think. Or I think it's got better terrain resistances. It should do if it's a wheeled vehicle. Yeah, it does. So obviously, Tanks GG says here that the higher the number is better. Actually, the lower terrain resistance is better, I think. I'm probably completely wrong there, but anyway, it's ridiculously quick. That's all you need to know. Armor, health, not, you know, it's got the lowest HP of any tier 10 light tank. Its armor's pretty much non-existent, so you can shoot this thing with HE. This is funny, track armor is only 5mm and its track health is only 250. Yeah, that's a lie. Its armor is just ridiculous there. The amount of times I've been wheeled, like the entirety of my right hand side of the tank has been wheeled before because I think like a chieftain shot me with a 120mm shell and it just wheeled all 4 things. It's insane. Camo, it actually has the best, which is odd because I'd expect the T100 to have the best camo, because that's sort of what you would expect it to. That's like its role, the T100, the Manticore RD passive scouters. But then again, it's got pretty poor. Actually, no, its camo rate is very good, which is very odd because you wouldn't expect that on this tank. You'd expect its camo to be lower because of its speed. It's more of an active spotter, but anyway, I guess I'm wrong there. Very cheap shell cost, so this tank can make a lot of money, although the amount of money required to kit it out properly is a lot. As you can see, its view range is abysmal, 340 meters view range, and that's the trade-off with these tanks. They're insanely quick, but to actually make them good spotters, you have to use, I think the setup I've got is a bounty optics, vents and a gun rammer, I believe, and that pushes the view range about 458, 460, and I've got to use coffee on that. So the view range is really poor. Really, it's worse than some tier 7 heavy tanks, I think. Yeah, like I said, that's the trade-off really. You've got to put a lot of money into these tanks to make them effective, and stock, this thing isn't as good as a spotter as what the Sheridan might be, for example, just because its view range is 80 meters less. But it can reach the maximum view range in the game, which just makes this thing incredibly powerful. So why don't we have a look at how powerful these tanks are in the first game, which will be one of my games on Sand River. So here we are for the first game. It's a standard tier 10 game on the Sand River map. Pretty good map for the EBR. Lots of nice open spaces to run around, and also getting into the game, I'll show you the wheel system here quickly. So this is the more mobility mode. As you can see, I lifted the wheels up there. This gives me increased top speed. Signalled by the little speedometer, as you can see here. It's also good to, when you're fighting EBRs, to look to see how many wheels it has. You can see this thing is just insanely quick. But how would you play an EBR? I feel like playing an EBR, you've got to exploit things. As you see, I'm checking out the space camouflage there. It's really lovely on this tank. You see, enemy Sheridan. We actually managed to spot him and don't get spotted ourselves. This is what you've got to do in the EBR. You've got to play it as sort of like this. What's the word? Sort of like a breaching tank, really. You use it to take a flank, you do quick spots, and then you run away. EBRs are very good late game vehicles. They're also very good early game vehicles. As you can see, we're just constantly keeping things spotted, not getting spotted ourselves. But you've got to keep your gun firing. Unless you're passive spotting. If you're passive spotting, don't fire the gun, obviously. But as you can see here, the way I'm playing this thing, I'm holding down this part of the map, I'm keeping vision for my team, but I'm also keeping my gun in the game, because 390 alpha damage, albeit every 10 seconds, is pretty poor. It's still a lot of damage. And then when it comes to late game, when it comes to breaching a flank, it makes things a lot easier. So trying to feather a shot on the STB, unfortunately, we bounce off its upper plate. But this thing can do what other light tanks can't do, and that's let the team win a flank or spot an opening and go for it. If I was an enemy EBR, as you can see, the K line at the bottom is completely open. If I was on the enemy team, I would already be in K1 now. I would already be spotting our allied FE4005s around here. I would just be running around here, taking map control as we put a shot into the enemy Sheridan. And that's what this thing does. It's like a mosquito is probably the best word I can find for it. You do damage over time, and it builds up quicker than you'd actually expect with only 2000 DPM. You see, we're trying to put another shot on the STB. Good accuracy on this tank means we put another shot into him. As you can see here, the STB is not able to shoot us because this thing can fire a shot as we pick up the kill object 140 there. It can fire a shot, pull back, relocate to a completely different part of the map in 30 seconds. As the Sheridan comes over, he's got the derp gun, he blasts us in the side, but luckily for us he doesn't penetrate with a premium HE round. As you can see now, we're losing this north side of the map. The STB holds a really strong position. We've got nothing to counter him except me. There's a UDES and a Sheridan there. I decide to leave this flank for a bit. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to pay attention to the map constantly. You've got to look, where are my opportunities to get behind the enemy? Because if you get behind them, and you may get spotted, you see there the ridiculous turning point as we're heading back to the middle ridge. You've got to look at what gaps you can exploit. You may only get 1 or 2 shots off on an enemy exploiting a flank or exploiting a gap. But if you can go there, if you can kill both artillery, or if you can get behind the enemy, put 2 shots in, as we're looking for a shot on this UDES here. This is what this tank does, because nothing can catch you unless they have an enemy EBR. In this case, they don't. So what I'm doing was, unfortunately, 3 tanks down at this point, is looking, where can I get damage? I'm constantly firing, which it's an odd situation because the EBR isn't a combat vehicle. It's got terrible DPM, it's got bad penetration. Yeah, we're sat here on what will be just over 3000 damage as we connect a blind shot with that UDES. And that's how you play the EBR. You take it as a light tank and then you go reinforce flanks. Even if that means you're sniping vehicles, which this thing isn't good at admittedly, but it can be done, especially with firing premium as the artillery picks up the kill on that UDES 1516. But that's how I would play the EBR. People might want to play it differently. People have different setups for it. That's the beauty of this tank. You can set it up for full combat capability, or you can set it up for pure scouting capability. The way I'm running it is a bit of both. It's not great at one thing, but it's not great at the other. And I hope that in the replays we'll be showing in this video and also future videos to come, you'll see the EBR being able to do things as unfortunately that Leopard mountain climbs out of the way. Yeah, that's sort of how you play the EBR. It's fast paced, it's high adrenaline, but you've got to keep your gun in the game, because the more damage you do at the start means the easier it is at the end. Obviously that sounds a bit simple, you know, given that's kind of what happens with every game, but especially for a light tank. You know, we're 4 kills down at this point. Unfortunately we missed the shell on the Leopard there, which is annoying. Actually reload a high explosive round now. And this chieftain is currently breaking through the north side. We've completely lost the north side. We've taken a little bit of control on the south side, but not massive amounts. But we have 3 artillery. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to keep that chieftain spotted. If I get that chieftain out of this side, we control the entire upper side of the map to an extent, apart from the Leopard and Sheridan in base. Once he's dead, I have more free reign, and this is what this tank does. It's like a knight or a rook in chess. At the start, it's pretty good, but late game, it's incredible. As unfortunately we bounced off the side of the chieftain there. That's basically how you got to play it. It's opportunistic at best. You know, it's a light tank, it's a medium tank. So see, I'm running back towards the artillery there because I see the chieftain coming. Then again, I decide to go back. We've got to keep him spotted. Our artillery's paying attention, so kudos to them. We're 6 kills down at the moment. Made that 5 kills down as the STB1 picks up the kill on the Sheridan. But the chieftain's advancing towards us, and he gets put down to a 1-shot. Fantastic shot by one of our artillery there. And that's what this is what you got to do. That chieftain is dead. Always will be, unless the artillery miss all the shots, and then I somehow manage to miss all of my shots. But you just keep him spotted. There's nothing he can do about it. He can't catch you. He can't hit you because there's a ridge in the way, and we've got 3 artillery, and there we go. It's now 6-11, so unfortunately we lost the STB1. But we're currently up to what will be over 3k damage at this point with that blind shot on the UDES earlier. but also 1.7k spotting. And now I'm going over to this side of the map to try and cover our artillery and do as much as I can do. But yeah, that's the EBR mentality really. As you can see, we don't get the bushes quickly enough and the TVP spots us, but we managed to put a shot into him. We're down to only heat rounds left, because this is going to be pretty expensive games. Unfortunately, the T92 kills our Object 261, who was a bit slow getting out of there. Now there's only 4 tanks left. There is a full health Stritzwagen that hasn't been spotted. I don't know the health of the other tanks, but if we can, try and keep them spotted and keep doing damage, this thing takes map control really well. That's what it is. It'll exploit flanks. It will go. It'll be in front of you 1 minute. Next minute, it'll be behind you. As you can see here, like I'm on the side of their advancing tanks now. As you put a nice shot into the side of the IS-7 there, and I do get spotted. But the thing is, he can't catch me. I can run away towards our artillery up the north. I can go wherever I want in this thing. And if you get a platoon of 2 or 3 of these, they're lethal. It's so flexible, I think is probably the word I'd use to describe this tank, to see if they could have headed up north now. Trying to look for a shot on the I-7, unfortunately. They're capping our base and we're only down to 1 remaining artillery. I've accepted this point we're going to lose. So I'm just going to try and do as much damage as I can. This tank, it can carry late game, but it's reliant on your team doing a lot of damage or you doing a lot of damage at the start. Let's see, we spot the IS-7 there, so we're going to feather a shot on him. Fantastic gun handling there, allows us to put a shell into the back of his turret. We don't actually get spotted for that. And full health ST2 near full health E100. I don't think we'd have enough ammunition to this. And you see we've got full health Stritzwagen there. But now we've put it into mobility mode, and you can see how agile this thing is we use the terrain, we use everything to our advantages, and that's what separates the good and the bad EBR players. It's just the ability to think. I know that separates a lot of the good players, but like utilise, like, I see that this strip, I see we're going to lose and I'm just going to run away. I farm damage at the start, what I can do. But yeah, unfortunately we lost that game, which was annoying. 4.5k damage, 2000 spotting. But yeah, hopefully that shows what the EBR is used for, at least in a semi-combat scenario, or how you should play the EBR. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to a game on Malinovka, which wasn't by me, and that's going to showcase how the EBR is in terms of an actual scout doing what the game says it should do. So here we are for a game on Malinovka. We're going to be watching Seba0550 playing in his EBR, and he's going to be showcasing what the EBR is capable of doing when it's in a proper light tank role. As you can see, Seba is a fantastic player. He's 2-marked his EBR, and there's a platoon of 3 Mouses on the enemy team, on Malinovka with 3 artillery. I think you can figure out how this is going to go. Yeah, hopefully last game showed you the ability of what the EBR can do. Seba is going to be going across the field here, instantly spots the Manticore, and that's a very good play. That Manticore is a fantastic passive scouter. Spotting that guy early and trying to get his team to kill him before the game even starts is going to be crucial for the EBR's success here. But as you can see, he's always on the move, he's always spotting tanks. As you can see here, he's not stopping. The speed is what keeps this thing alive. The speed is what gives this thing its combat capability. If you wanted to, in 30 seconds he could be on top of the hill in A0 if you needed to. That's how this tank works. You keep his gun firing and you keep moving, and hopefully if you've got an average team you should be able to win. That's how you're influential in the EBR. It's not just assisting a bush scout like a T100 LT, it's not a combat light tank like say the WZ1321 for example. It can be both of those. It just depends on the scenario. As you can see here, he knows he's on spot. He's actually going to sit in the bush here. He's already up to 2.7k spotting. Spots an enemy mouse making some questionable plays at best, and he realises that mouse is going to come up and try and push the field, so he gets out of there. You've always got to try and think, what are the enemy going to do? Are they going to try this? Are they going to do this? And predict what they're going to do. As with any tank really, but more so the EBR, because its survivability depends on that. As you can see here, he's actually going to take a shot at Progetto using the double bush, using the bush mechanics, pull back, so when he fires he won't get spotted. So far he's just been very influential. Malinovka, Prokhorovka are some of the best maps for EBRs because they're so open. You can farm so much spotting out of it. You see he's already up to 4.8k spotting now, and the game's only just over 3 minutes old. Or 2 minutes old rather. But you know, if this was a different map, if this was Sand River for example, you'd be trying to keep this thing in a combat situation, but the more damage he can spot now using the tank's speed, concealment and view range, which is maxed out, the better it's going to be for him later on in the game if he needs to carry. And yeah, that's the EBR mentality here really. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but you know that it's so important for this tank to you don't want to overcommit. The amount of times in advances he sees putting blind shots to where he thinks the Manticore will be. There's so many times in advances, in strongholds, where you see enemy EBRs commit too far. Say for example that ridgeline on Sand River that I was working. An EBR commits over that, it has to die for it, even in randoms. You kill an enemy EBR, you basically take potential map control. Potential map control is where you're able to have the ability to exploit a flank because nothing can stop you, even if the flank isn't open yet. At some point a flank will become open. If the enemy doesn't have a tank that can counter you, your influentiality, that's not really a word, your lethality in a tank with only 2000 base DPM will grow exponentially, because you're not only creating a crossfire, you are putting the enemy in a position where they have to advance forward into friendlies. As you see, he's making a fantastic play here to spot the Manticore, and the Manticore just gets instantly obliterated. He's not quite dead yet, he is now. But that was a key play there to get rid of that Manticore. The enemy have lost all their eyes now. That's what I mean, the enemy has nothing that can counter him, and the Manticore can counter him via view range and camo rating. Removing the Manticore means he can take this bush here on the enemy side of the map. Unfortunately there's an STB working the ridge, but he's spotted him now. He just gets spotted himself. Tries to put a shot in there, unfortunately misses, but then STB doesn't react quickly enough, he loses 1600 health for it, and ultimately ends up dying. And that's what I mean, these replays and some of the replays that I'll be showing in a different video will show you how the EBR works. It's a great tank, but there is such a steep learning curve to it, and I went through that learning curve. My DPG at the moment, my damage per game is pretty awful. I think it's only like 1500. But as you can see here, he's getting his gun in the game. You know, you're opportunistic. If you've got a shot, take it. You see, he's spotted a T124 now. But this tank, you see, actually gets hit by the Object 261, and he's put it into mobility mode to try and evade the T124, who's taking a long time on his shot if he's not reloading, and he ultimately dies for it. Look at how much map control he's taken. The enemies are pushed into a corner, and because he's there constantly spotting them, this is the 430 who actually puts a shot into him, he can't take control of a map. He can allow his allies to take control of the map. What he's doing here is map denial. This is going to be my military historian side coming out, but map denial is where you prevent an enemy light tank or an enemy force from taking a map because you're constantly spotting them, you're constantly harassing them with shells as he actually loses a large chunk of health there from the mouse. And I don't like what he's doing here. He's being very aggressive, which is okay to do, but if your team were putting pressure on, if his team were a bit further forward and the enemies were distracted, it would be a good idea to to pressure, but he's lost a lot of health for it. But it seems to be working. The enemies aren't really hitting him. He's I think we've located where this guy's balls are, and they're pretty huge. You know, he's even firing on the move, and it's very dangerous to do that, especially when you're on this low health or this close proximity to enemies, because the closer you get, obviously, the easier it is to hit you. But he's keeping it as fast as possible. He's switching between modes, you know, keeping the enemies guessing, and it's so difficult to hit these things. That's what you got to do. You've got to be like Icarus, really, but you've also got to have some self-restraint. Self-restraint in these things is key, and if you're able to exercise caution, you see an enemy FV appears out of nowhere. The more caution you exercise, the better you'll become at it. And you see an enemy projectile 2 down at this point. Unfortunately, the enemy projectile picks up a kill on him, but at this point, it's over. You know, the EBR's picked up so much spotting. He's denied the enemy so much map control. As well, Seb, so we, you know, we should call him an EBR player, but Seb has denied them so much map control that they're all boxed in the corner now. And a bit of a misplay to lose all of his health. I feel like he could have played this a bit longer as the enemy mouse drowns. But each to their own, you know, he knows what he's doing, he's a good player. And, you know, he's also going to take this down for his team. But hopefully that game and my game highlights what the EBR is capable of. You know, it's, I don't like what he's doing with the camera there. I'm going to take control, there we go. It's a light tank, it's a medium tank, and in this game's meta, mobility is key. It has the best mobility in the game, and it has the ability to continuously fire without being hit if you know what you're doing. And if you know what you're doing, you're not going to trade. You're going to sit there, you're going to put a shot in, and then you're going to run away, relocate somewhere else, or come back 10 seconds later. That's the EBR though. You see the friendly team is just picking up kills now. It's going to be 15-5 by the time this mouse goes down. There he goes. And he ends the game on 17k spotting. And that's what the EBR can do on Malinovka. Malinovka's a great map for an EBR. So too is Prokhorovka. Malinovka, I did my LT15 for the Object 260 mission in. Unfortunately the replay doesn't work because Wargaming did a small micro patch, so I can't show that. But basically the same thing happened here really. I didn't get as much spotting. I think I only got about 8k. But that's an EBR for you. It's great. And other videos that were coming out will obviously emphasise this point, but let's have a quick look at the post-game stats for these two games and for that Malinovka game that unfortunately didn't work for me. So here we are, this is my Malinovka game, the one that didn't work. This is where I did the 260 mission. You see 9.1k spotting, 2k damage. Being a bit more active at the end. Getting my gun in the game, and you can see, you know, top on damage. Obviously I can't really show much, but being heavily influential in this game, along to with our friendly EBR picking up another 6k spotting. And honestly in this game, we had two EBRs, they had an EBR and a T100, and I feel like the more EBRs you have the better, for the reasons I've emphasised repeatedly within this video. And I feel like it's important that we emphasise these points because that's the EBR in a nutshell really. As you have a look at the El Haluf game, I really wish that the Wargame replay system would actually just tell the map instead of saying desert. Like there's like 4 desert maps in the game, so I thought it was El Haluf, but it's Sun River anyway. 5k damage overall. Yeah, I did the best I could. You see the team not really helping me out too much. But we're top on damage. In a light tank with the lowest DPM at tier 10 probably, excluding artillery. And I feel like that's a really important point to emphasise on how to play this tank. You know, if I'd have had one more EBR, or 2 more EBRs, or a platoon, this game would probably be in the bag just because of what the EBR can do. But it's knowing what you can do with this tank, as you can see. Well, also a lot of credits, but credits aren't really an issue with this thing. In 10 minutes we'll do 5,000 damage, and that would be a good game in a medium tank, let alone this thing. But that's like I said, that's how you've got to play it. You're opportunistic, you do damage where you can. You saw how I was playing it. I was putting a shot in, I was running away, then I was coming back, putting another shot in. Just keep it firing as often as I can, and the damage will add up quickly. And if you focus fire, you kill the important tanks, then you stand a better chance of winning. And I feel if I'd had one more competent player on my team in a influential tank, a medium tank, probably would have been able to hold this one and maybe win. But it is what it is. Let's take a look at Seb's game here on Malinovka. You can see Ace Tanker, Patrol Duty and Scout, 18.2k spotting at the end. As you can see, no damage apart from 2 shots, and that just highlights, you know, the EBR has so much potential. It's flexible, as I've said multiple times, and you're probably getting annoyed at me saying this repeatedly, but that's what the EBR does. You know, it's this tank that is difficult to kill. It pokes you every 10 seconds with a gun that does 390 average damage. If you leave a gap in the lines, it will go and it will destroy your artillery. You know, that's the tactic in advances. When you see that you've opened a flank up, you'll just go EBRs, go kill the arty, then come and you flank them, and you've got only 3 EBRs behind you. It's terrifying. Not so much 1 EBR, but 2 EBRs. They're able to do 720 or 780. There we go, 780 damage every 10 seconds, especially in a situation of focused fire. If there's a low health tank, typically it will play more passively. It won't be at the front. It'll let its high HP tanks soak up the damage so it can keep its gun in the game. You've got any amount of EBRs really. That's it. That tank's irrelevant because they can come from any direction they want to because they have the speed to. And when you load HE, that's 500 damage every 10 seconds, 1,000 with 2 EBRs. It adds up very quickly, along with all the module damage. You see, top of team, 1300 base experience, fantastic game. The FE have an absolute farm fest there on 6.9k damage. And yeah, makes a profit out of this game for all of the spotting that he did. And a very good game. And I feel like all of the games that I've just shown were very good. Unfortunately, we didn't win that Sand River game, like I said. You know, it could have, should have, would have. But hopefully that emphasises the point of the EBR. And I hope you did enjoy this video as much as I rambled on about the EBR. Being probably one of the most influential tanks in the game if you play it properly. If you want to see more EBR games, I should be putting out a Triple Trouble version of the EBR at some point. So stay tuned to the channel for that video. If you did enjoy this video, please do like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all for more videos, probably not more World of Tanks videos, but probably more F1 videos very soon.